This is the best deck in set 1 of Star Wars Unlimited. This is the beginning of our End of the Rebellion series, which is going over a final deck list for our competitive decks for set 1 of Spark of the Rebellion. End of the Rebellion.
This is the end of the rebellion.
We killed all the rebels.
That's only in Twin Suns. That's only what happens in Twin Suns.
Yeah,
I made a really cool Twin Suns deck, by the way. And it's just like, it's only good in like 1v1s or like 2v1s, but not like 4v1s. Just saying. There's made an enemy out of every empire out there. And there's 4 of them. Goggleman here, Team Garage. I'm here with Roger Mack. And this is like the first time we're actually having somebody else on the video for a good while. So introduce yourself.
How's it going, guys? Roger Mack here. First Star Wars video on the channel for the team. Going over my Cunning Sabine deck list that I've been running for set 1.
So like, why do you think it's like the best deck?
Well, it's no secret that Sabine is probably the top premier aggro deck in the set, but I just think that Cunning has a couple pieces that sets it above the other color combinations of Sabine, as well as the other leaders in the set.
We have time codes in the description.
Are there time codes in the description? All right, so let's talk about Sabine for a second again. I think the person to compare to, if you're going aggro, is Leia, right? And I personally really like Leia, but Sabine just has that one extra damage and that one turn she comes out before Leia, which is a very pivotal amount of damage that you can deal in one turn. And so that's why she kind of sets herself above Leia in that instance, no matter what color you're playing with her. And then I'm playing Chopper Base instead of Jedha City. I don't really think Jedha City is that great, to be honest. The only 25 HP base that I think is that great is Energy Conversion Lab, especially in an aggro deck for those mirrors. Having the 5 extra HP is huge for you, because the yellow Sabine, the Cunning Sabine list, is not as fast as I'd say really any of the other Sabine lists, the green one with ECL or red Sabine with Tarkin Town.
Really?
But the tempo swings that it can produce are much more devastating to the match, where, you know, we have big tools like Surprise Strike and Sneak Attack, and then we have the Millennium Falcon, and all those things kind of together can create these tempo swings that the other Sabine lists can't really do, where they have more constant like burst damage that's just damage with like Rebel Assault and having ECL, but then they're kind of burnt out after that, where we're kind of more of a methodical play to set up for those game-winning turns like that.
Yeah, because it feels like when I play something like Surprise Strike, I feel like I'm missing a unit. I could have just played a unit instead of playing a Surprise Strike. So it just feels, it's like not intuitive to me.
Yeah, it's that's like a big thing in Cunning Sabine, is like we're playing one unit and like hoping that that unit lives, and then that's why in Cunning Sabine we're not pinging very often in the beginning of the game. You know, we want to play our unit and then get initiative on turn 1, and then we play another unit or attack with that unit first and then play another unit.
Wouldn't Leia be better at getting that initiative though?
Leia would be
like later when it doesn't matter, or is it like the first part of the game?
Is better at that, but you're playing guys that, like, you have to have rebels also to get value off of Leia, which you know, this whole deck is basically rebels, but it's a little different. It's just slow, and then on top of that you have your leaders coming out a turn after when Sabine comes out, and that in itself, like the turn that your leader comes out in this game is so impactful to that match. And in an aggro deck, the faster your leader can come out and deal damage, that's like how you win. And so that's why Sabine is the best.
So you're worried about the aggro match more than a control match?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, the aggro matches are super kind of odd for cutting Sabine because we have a couple units that are much more beefy than the rest of the aggro colors kind of have, where we have the Falcon, which is the only 3/4 space unit that you can play on turn 2 for 3. And so what that allows us to do is to trade with their unit, with their Alliance X-Wing or with their Green Squadron A-Wing, and we can then get rid of a unit. We'll also have a unit that is still alive, which we'll talk about the Falcon a little bit more, but we also have 3-drop Rogue Operative, which is a 2/4. And again, if you look at the 3-drop ground units, you have Fleet Lieutenant, and there are a couple other ones that the other colors play, but it's a 2/4 with Ray 2, which again means that it can kind of trade with a unit and still live because it has that extra health point compared to the more aggro-oriented units.
So, like, what's like the general game plan of what you're trying to do every single game?
Just go to base. The only time that I'm not attacking base is against the aggro mirror, and it depends on like. It's not like I'm trading with every single one of their units and trying to do that. It's really like that one trade that destroys their momentum and allows my damage to start outpacing theirs. For instance,
like tempo on damage.
Yeah, for instance, if they play a Green Squadron A-Wing on their first turn, and let's say that's what I also do, is play a Green Squadron A-Wing. The next turn, I can play the Millennium Falcon and get rid of their A-Wing and then attack with my A-Wing. Depending on who has initiative and stuff, that can change. But in a perfect world, I'm dealing damage while also removing one of their units. It can be the game plan, especially when you have pieces like Leia 2, where I tend to end up holding her.
Yeah, it's like an event. But
yeah.
It so happens to be on a unit.
Yeah, it's an event that's a 2/2 unit, and even if I mitigate 3 damage, but then I'm dealing that 3 damage that turn, I'm now outpacing the damage, and it's really hard for the other Sabine colors to get rid of my units. Again, like my Rogue Operative, Millennium Falcon, especially when we get into the late game with the Azatuk gunship and Chewbacca. That's like they're using 2 or 3 units to trade with them. So
is there anything else to your game plan for control?
You just gotta play more units. Usually with control, if my turn 1 can be a combination of Leia, R2, and Spec Force, any of those 3, if I could play 2 units on the first turn, first of all, you're kind of getting rid of their Power of the Dark Side turn, because you now have 2 units, and generally against control, they'll just claim the first turn because they're going to play Power of the Dark Side on the second turn and get rid of your 1 unit that you played. But if you play 2, that gives you a target for a Fleet Lieutenant, a Wing Leader, any combination of those things where you're guaranteed to start getting in damage because you just have to get rid of one of the other 2 units. Yeah,
because you still have a guy left. Even if one gets picked off, you still have leftovers.
Right, yeah. And then from there on out, it's just playing, multiple, trying to just get units out. So I'll usually resource the surprise strikes, the heroic sacks, the 4 cause, depending on the matchup, right? If I'm worried about child sin, I'll tend to just go space, of course, too. But if I'm worried about child sin, I'd honestly maybe just keep the heroic sack, because even if I have to burn 2 units to get rid of Child Sin, if I have to use a heroic sack on a unit and then something else little, at least I'm drawing a card there. So Child Sin's kind of its own beast, but outside of Child Sin, there's not much that I would think that I need to hold those cards for.
Not even a Boba Fett unit?
No, with Boba Fett, you just need to go to base. The other thing that's good on the on the control matchup is, let's say you play a Spec Force Soldier and a R2D2 on your turn 1. Generally, what I'll try to do turn 2 is play Leia, ready a resource, and play another 2-drop. So that if they power the dark side, I'm still going to have 3 units on board at the end of that turn.
That's really powerful, yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to like just playing a red 3 or a Millennium Falcon even, which is a really great card. It can help just start swarming the board. Start at the top and run through it a lot. Again, a lot of these cards are kind of, you should know why they're in there. But starting with Spec Force Soldier at the top, between him and R2 and Leia, I kind of count them all as my 1-drops, even though Leia's obviously a 2-cost card, but she usually readies a resource, which allows me to play 2 1-drop cards on the first turn. The reason that I cut Spec Force down to 2, I'm really only playing him like that against the control matchup. Honestly, like every other deck other than blue villainy control is only playing like 1 or 2 Sentinels in the entire list. And so to have 3 in the main was a little extreme. I don't think it's necessary. It never felt necessarily bad, but I did want to make room for 1 Lothal Insurgent, which I'll explain when we get to her about why I wanted to have at least one of them on the list. But I do have the 1 extra Spec Force Soldier in the side deck for those Sentinel heavy decks, something like Chewbacca or Villainy Control to, play that on the Child's in turn and then get a bunch of damage in, because the Child's in turn is your Sabine flip turn. Which again, in a perfect world, you have 3 or 4 units out. So they play their 4 resources to play a Child's in, and then you Spec Force him and get in with like 3 or 4 units. It's like the damage is done. It's just you've got the game at that
destruction
point.
Just happened.
Yeah, it just happened.
It feels the best when you do that.
Yeah. And then you play another one the next turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, I mean, at that point, you could just kill it too, and you're just
yeah, exactly.
It's even worse for them because they didn't even get to attack with it, and you're just like.
Yeah. So yeah, Spec Force Soldier, great card. It's basically a 1-cost event that says something lose Sentinel, but it's also a 2/2 body, which is insane. So totally fine to run 3 in the deck if that's what you're comfortable with. If you know your local, that's a roll. If your your locals are running around with a bunch of Chewbaccas, like just put 3 in the main. Make a meta call. So then we'll move on to Heroic Sacrifice. Probably the weakest event. I have had many times where if I drew a Heroic Sac, I would have won the game. And it's something that I might look at moving to 3 in the future. I know some of us are playing 3 of it. I generally, like I said, this is probably the event that I like to see the least. Certain circumstances where you're going to play it on K2. That's the best scenario where you get to attack for 9.
You want to see that late game, otherwise you're going to resource it.
Yeah, for sure. But there's been, like I said, in the past 2 tournaments that I've been in, there's been 2 instances where if I drew a Heroic Sac, I won with K2. And one of them I didn't draw it, and the other one I did draw it.
2 different games.
I lost one of the games I won. So it could go in the side. Another one just depends. I would maybe even put another sneak attack in before I put another Heroic Sac in the deck. 3 R2s. This card's crazy. Like, people were sleeping on this card for so long, and we've been playing it since the game came out. Like, a 1/4 Rebel that lets you scry every turn is unbelievably overstated. And a lot of times what will happen is I'll play R2 and Leia or R2 and Spec Force, and the person will prioritize in getting rid of Leia or Spec Force, and then I get to wing leader R2, and it becomes a 3/6 that lets me scry every turn. R2's nuts. Like, R2 will be in hero aggro decks like for a long time. They'd have to make a crazy 1-drop to replace R2. I love that card. Green Squadron A-Wing. Every hero aggro player should know exactly why this card is great. 1-3 in space with Ray 2's nuts. Not much to talk about. Great card. The Sabine unit is one of probably, I've been growing less and less fond of this card lately. This is probably the unit that gets resourced the most for me. More often than not, you just want to go space. You know, there aren't a lot of space units compared to ground units. It has a 3 HP stat, and you know, its unattack ability does come out. You know, does come up in certain things. You can kill a Death Star Stormtrooper without taking any damage back, but again, why are you attacking the unit as opposed to attacking the base? It also like loses to itself. So if they have the initiative and they play a Sabine run unit, and then I play a Sabine run unit, they get to kill mine, and I don't get to kill theirs back. So it feels kind of bad. It also connects to that like just kills Sabine, and again, I don't trade back with it. So that is like probably least optimal turn 1 play is the Sabine red unit. It might even come out in the future if there's better 2-drop rebel cards for heroism from set 2.
Well, it does take out shields though.
It does take out shields, which is nice. This card, its niche good thing is it destroys the Luke deck, because their turn 1 is usually like Alliance Dispatcher with shield or R2 with shield. You can't kill R2, but you can ping the shield off an Alliance Dispatcher and then kill it, and then you live. It's like the best play against them. So
that's like, how many times do you see that in a turn?
Yeah, exactly. They just won't do that if they see this. If you hit it with a wing leader, of course it is great. You know, you can hit for 5 damage if you allocate the 1 damage to the base. So it is strong in that instance, but again, there's a lot more ground sentinel units than there are space. The Leia unit is a really, you know, it's one of the reasons we're in yellow, right? It has super like value in terms of what you use it for. You can use it to exhaust someone. You can use it to play 2 drops on turn 2. You could use it to play 2 1-drops on turn 1. There's times when I do that like later in the game. Like if I have 4 resources, I can play Leia, ready resource, then I can play a 3-drop, you know. So it just allows you to generally like get more value for the amount of resources that you have. Or again, an aggro matchup, you can use it to exhaust someone and get a little bit more value there to swing the game. So probably a staple going forward. I don't see her coming out. Lothal Insurgent. So the reason I wanted one of these in, and actually there's one in the side deck, is because the only thing that green Sabine has that we don't is a turn 1 play that's a 3/3. And that's the green guy that we were talking about. The only 2-drop with 3 attack that we have is Lothal Insurgent, or we have Greedo if we really want to play Greedo. But, you know, we don't want to throw off our 4 cause ratio. So I just wanted to have that option to have a 3/2. Because it can trade with the cell block guard if someone plays that, or can trade with a 3/3 unit that green Sabine plays, because nothing else can trade with them on the first turn. So I just wanted to have one just in case in the main deck. And then sometimes too, people leave it alone, and again, U-Wing Leader can deal 5 damage. So
yeah.
Good attack stat, but it's easy to get traded with. So again, I'm not usually going to be playing this card unless it's a really weird circumstance, so it generally gets resourced. It's good in the green Sabine mirror, and that's about it. So it comes out, you know, against anything other than green Sabine, but the other one comes in against green Sabine. So one of my favorite cards in the deck is Sneak Attack. Oh, I love this card.
It's such a dirty card.
Such a dirty card. Yeah, I mean, this card's insane, and you know, people weren't on it for a long time, and I've been playing a long time, and just the fact that the big play is you sneak attack in Fleet Lieutenant, target itself because it's ready because of sneak attack, and attack someone's base for 5 damage. It's a 2-cost event that says deal 5 damage to the base. Why wouldn't we?
You have that combination, which happens all the time, like when your Fleet Lieutenant play gets interrupted. So it's like,
It also, like, if I see turn 1 I play, Green Squadron A-Wing, right? And then turn 2, if I have the choice between like a wing leader and a fleet lieutenant, or red 3 and a fleet lieutenant, it gives you much more incentive and like a good line to go, okay, well, I'm gonna hold the fleet lieutenant, because if I have a sneak attack in hand, or if I draw one, then that's value for that card, where red 3 wing leader, they're also giving value to the Green Squadron A-Wing that turn. So it almost gives you more value to be like, I have to choose between wing leader or fleet lieutenant, where it's like, okay, it's okay to hold the fleet lieutenant depending on the matchup. So but there's like any time you sneak attack any card in this deck, it's like valuable.
So juiced every time.
It's so good. Like on the Sabine turn 1 game against the yellow boba, I sneak attacked a red 3, and then I was able to also play a surprise strike that turn, and I won just because I had a red.
Lot of damage.
It was a lot of damage. It was like 13, 15 damage in 1 turn from like 4 units. It was shit. He was just like, had nothing. Well, don't be afraid to play that sneak attack to like, I'm going to lose my red 3. Well, if you get enough value that turn, like, it doesn't matter how many units you have on the board if you put them into, KO range the next turn. I also really like sneak attacking K2 on turn 2. Since it'll cost 3.
Yeah.
So, because if they don't kill the K2, he's going to die anyway, which means you're getting guaranteed 3 damage, but you could be getting 4 from his attack. Or killing a unit, deal some overwhelm. Like, so good. It's so good. The only one that it doesn't really feel great to sneak attack is the gunship, because then you don't get to resolve the ambush. It does not work like ECL. You can't resolve the ambush, then resolve sneak attack because of the wording on it. Same thing for the Falcon too. It doesn't really feel great to sneak attack the Falcon because it does the same thing. It readies itself already. So everything else is great. Feels great. There was one turn against Control that, going into the 6th resource turn, I had black 1 and sneak attack. I sneak attacked black 1, drew 3 cards, and one of them was a heroic sack. So I was able to heroic sack the black 1, hit for 6, and I had 3 new cards in my hand. Then I played a 4-cause to end the game. So yeah, sneak attack's like, I love that card. Might go to 3. I've honestly never felt bad with it at 2. I've never felt like, oh my gosh, I needed 3 of this card, because you really only need to play 1 for it to be so impactful. And you just line, your plays up that way. And then Surprise Strike is, again, the reason we're playing Cunning. Card's busted. Card's like one of the best cards in the game, I think. Like, playing to do 2 actions where you're attacking with the unit and buffing it. Not only that, we're giving it +3 is like crazy. For instance, there's the 1-drop green card, which is, I think, give a unit +3 for this phase. But that's it. Like, it gives your opponent time to react. This costs 1 more, but you get to attack with that unit. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's like doing 2 actions in 1.
Doing 2 actions, and usually I just save it to win the game. And as long as you have 2 units that can win the game, like, people know. People will see it coming. They'll be like, you got the surprise strike? I'm like, yeah, I got it. Yeah, I got it. Sorry. Yeah, I got the busted card. This is why I play the deck. So, yeah, like having Sabine, and then if you wing leader Sabine, and then you surprise strike with Sabine, that card's amazing. I don't think it will ever not be 3 in this deck. And there's someone from set 2 that makes this card insane, which we'll talk about at the end of the video in testing, but it's crazy. Alliance X-Wing, that's just your second best space unit you can play. Yeah, it's vanilla 2.3. I wish it was a 3.3, but that'd be pretty busted to
Oh
get
my gosh.
space. Don't think
Rebel too.
Yeah, it is a Rebel. That would be crazy. But yeah, it's good. I play that sometimes, wing leader it or something like that. It gets the job done. And that's the suboptimal play. But you do need to have 3 of it just in case. You want to get your ratio, so you draw that card. I'd just rather have a wing instead of that. So for 3 drops, playing a lot of 3 drops in this deck. I think this Sabine is the one with the most 3 cross cards. It's because we had 2 to the list, which is Rogue Operative and Millennium Falcon. And actually, we're playing 3 across the board. All of our 3 drops we're playing 3 of, and that's why I think Cunning also has the highest skill cap of the deck, because there's a lot of lines and you really got to know, like, okay, what is the most efficient line for me to win this game, especially with what I have in the deck. We'll talk about this a little bit more, but a lot of the times too, you're 1 resource behind because of the Millennium Falcon tax. And so you're going, okay, I only have 3 resources on the 4 resource turn. So you really got to make value of what cards you're playing. But most of them are pretty standard, hero aggro stuff. Red 3, amazing card's busted. I like sneak attacking it because then it gets immediate value plus buffing the guys. Usually like top target if it gets played, super good.
Yeah.
For a cause, so I'm only playing 5 non-hero cards. It's felt great. The lowest I've ever hit for it was 3, so I've never gone below that.
Yeah.
More often than not, in your resources or in your discard, out of the spot.
You got another surprise strike in the deck.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better.
Right. So then, 4 cause is crazy. Like, I think that's the card that makes people the most salty out of anything. It's just like, 4 cause, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
I only hit for 3. It's not
4 cause. Like I've had that where people are like, "Do you have that?"
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't play one in the deck, but this guy does.
Yeah. There's like some games where I've drawn like 3, and then like my turn 3 or my turn 2, 3, and 4 is just 3, 4 causes in a row, and it just works out fine. Card's great
because you can't really interrupt it. Unlike a unit, you can attack it, or you can
interruption.
Interruption.
Getting the Scry 4 is also like super good. Because then you get to, there's sometimes where you're like, I just need that 1 surprise strike or that 1 fleet.
Because you get to curate what you're drawing, right?
Yeah. So, it's just always going to be in hero. Great card. All right, so the Millennium Falcon, this is probably the best card in the deck. Like, Surprise Strike and Millennium Falcon are the best cards in the deck by far. Yeah. I was sleeping on the Falcon, to be honest with you, for a while. I was only playing 2 of them, and then I realized, I think there's only a total of like 3 or 4 ways that this card can die on turn 2. And the only space unit that trades with it is the 3-drop 4/1 mono red card, where if you have the initiative and he dies, you draw 2 cards, which like no one plays. So you're not afraid. Yeah. So like the only way to get rid of it is open fire and a couple other weird ways. But oh my gosh, this card's crazy. The Falcon is insane, and it is like worthy of being a legendary card, because in a lot of the Sabine decks, their second turn is Wing Leadering or Fleet Lieutenant, which is an extra 2 damage to whatever their unit is. But the Millennium Falcon is an extra 3 damage. So depending on what you do, Cunning Sabine is the only Sabine where you can have 8 damage on the second turn. With 2 Sabine pings, you 3 damage from your first unit, and then the Millennium Falcon coming in ready, dealing in another 3 damage. And that's like super hard for an opponent to like sit with, especially if they're like a mid-range deck. They're like, oh, I just took like a third of my base damage in the first 2 turns.
Yeah, it's like I'm behind. Yeah, I remember playing like the Metallica for like the first time. I was like, oh my gosh, this is just so easy now. Like it was like I get to breathe more. I was like, oh, like I just I just got space. Like, no problem. I just got space.
Yeah, especially like our biggest worry in space is like system patrol craft. But then you can just swing into that with the Falcon and then bounce the Falcon, bring it in, and get rid of it. You're not losing your Falcon.
That's like the play. You don't.
Yeah, I don't do that often, but you can do that. Like it comes up sometimes. So yeah, Falcon's amazing. I think one of the most valuable legendary cards. I think it's just going to get better and better. Like that card will just become one of the most valuable legendaries from set 1 that you can pull for Cunning Heroism.
Yeah, like I remember when I was like pulling mine, you're like, oh yeah, it's like the easiest card to pull.
Yeah.
It's super common legendary. It's probably bad. And
I think
here we are. It's like the best, one of the best legendaries. Very super playable.
I think it's sitting at like $40 for base cost right now, and the Boba Fett unit down to like 50. Where that was like 20 for the Falcon, 80 for the
huge gap between those before.
Yeah, there was a huge before, and now they're $10 off, and I'd rather have the Falcon than the Boba Fett unit.
Yeah, here we are today. Like, this Falcon's the best.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then Rogue Operative is the other reason we're on yellow. A lot of people kind of sleep on this card. I think this card is nuts.
I think this card's going to get better later on.
I think this card is definitely going to get. Yes, a Saboteur Raid 2 is crazy. So what the other colors are playing over this is Fighters for Freedom, right? And Fighters for Freedom is great. The extra ping for the red stuff is very good, but it's not like we're playing a ton of red stuff compared to the other lists. Again, we're losing Fighters for Freedom. We're not playing 3 copies of that, amongst some other things. So we're getting rid of that, but what's the value in this? Well, there's so much value in this card. And a lot of people will leave this card alone because they're just like, oh, well, he has to attack with it. If I surprise strike this card, that's 7 damage to your base.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I can't do that with any other 3 drops. Like, I like the closest I get is 6, which again is only 1 off. But if red 3's on the field, that's 8 damage to your base, and your Sentinels can stop this. Like,
yeah, like people forget that it has Saboteur, or like what Saboteur even does, or Saboteur even exists. Or like, oh, I'm good. I got my child sin out there. We're good. And then like you just like this is already on the field. They're like, okay.
Yeah, they're like, okay, play my child sin or take down this Rogue Operative, and then okay, I'm free to do the other option. And so if you get to wing leader this, oh my gosh, hitting for 6 damage, and then it's a 4/6.
Oh, wow.
That's hard to deal with, man.
I haven't gotten a whole lot of those, but like, man.
Yeah. Card's great. Like, again, with the 3 drops and Cunning, like, I don't think any of them are dropping below 3. Like, as far as how many I'm playing, they're so good in their circumstances. So, Fleet Lieutenant and Wing Leader, the brothers of Ground and Space and Heroism. I don't really have to talk about them much. They're
brothers.
They're the brothers. They're even they're going the opposite way. You could put them back to back, and they look like the cards are supposed to be together. I mean, Wing Leader. Exactly how good it is. You're just giving 2 experience tokens of something. This is the card that I'm heroic sacrificing the most because it only has 1 HP. So someone's gonna take it, kill it somehow, and it probably won't trade back. So you might as well just get some 4 damage in. And then Fleet Lieutenant again gives us a little bit more value in this deck because we have sneak attack. But again, super good, adding 2 damage. Yep, those two are self-explanatory. Super good. All right, getting into our 4 drops. We have 3K2, the last of the Red Heroism rare cards that are broken. Oh man, like there are turns when I'm like, I have 4 resources and I can play like a 2-drop and a 2-drop, or 1-drop and a 3-drop. But then if I like see a surprise strike in my hand or a heroic sack, I'm like, I'm just gonna play K2 and claim, and then just hit for a bunch of damage next turn.
Yeah.
The only thing that hurts against K2 is when he gets bounced back to your hand. So generally against like Boba Fett, if I know they're on Waylay or a deck that's playing Waylay, I'll tend to do the more options for 4 resources versus just playing K2. K2 is so hard for an opponent to deal with because they're like, do I kill it and take the 3 damage, or do I just try and leave it alone, but then you're dealing more damage and you can kill things.
I've had like, I remember like the first time I played K2 and like I'm just like, deal with it.
Yeah.
It's like a wrecking ball, just like.
Yeah, you're just like, here you go, deal with this while I play with the other units. You can deal with them. Yeah, you definitely got a heroic sacrifice K2 for the lore accurate.
Lore accurate.
That's the best feeling.
Yeah.
All right, so then we're getting into the end and the spice of the deck. There's a couple tech choices. Shout out to Frank Myers. He's kind of the yellow Sabine player that put people on to the gunship and Chewie. I'm playing 2 of the gunship, 1 Chewie, and 1 black, 1 in the main. The gunship and Chewie are mainly just for the mirrors. The gunship, I think, is the only 3/4 space unit that has ambush. So it comes in and trades with all the heroism space units. Like,
Green Squadron.
You look at this list, like it's killing them except for the Falcon, which again is why the Falcon is great. And then if you have Red 3 on the field, it can trade with like System Patrol Craft, another Millennium Falcon, which is really easy to set up. So yeah, super, super good in the mirror. But one of the last store showdowns I was in, my turn 2 and my turn 3 play was Red 3 and then Azatuk in both the games, and it was a Cunning Sabine mirror, and he wasn't on the gunship, and so I was just like getting rid of his space units, and he could do nothing about it.
Yeah, you're just cleaning up, and
you're just cleaning up.
He couldn't stabilize space at least, probably.
Yeah, he couldn't stabilize, and then I like had bigger guys to keep attacking with. So yeah, that card's great. I don't know if it'll stand the test of time and stay in the main deck after set 2 and stuff gets more optimized, but it's been great, at least for now. Chewbacca is again just for the mirror, but when you play him in the mirror, he's super great because they got to trade like 3 units into him, and then he's going to get readied at least 2 times. He's dealing 6 damage. So yeah, he's awesome. Suboptimal thing just because we're in one set, we had limited amount of cards, right? So Chewie and the gunship both come out against control.
Okay.
Against anything other than the aggro mirror. Like the gunship might stay in against Boba because they have a lot of space stuff, but yeah, other than that, Chewie's just there for aggro. Yeah, but then when I play it, what do I do against that? It's just ready.
Wait, you can do that?
Yeah.
And he gets ready, like, let's read the card,
Yeah.
RTFC,
Yeah, RTFC. Well, my Wookiee's about to destroy your whole ground units. Yes, he's fun. Again, I don't know if he'll stand the test of time, but super good against aggro, so he might, just for that reason. And then last card of the deck is 1 black 1. Probably like the second most slept on legendary of the set. I love this card. I think this card's great. A lot of people don't like it, but against control, where you spend your resources, you don't have cards in your hand, and then by turn 6, if they've done some of their control stuff, playing this and then drawing 3 cards is like crazy. And again, I've done it where I've played it with sneak attack and then got the heroic sack, or if you play sneak attack, you can pull something else. Yeah, it's super good. Again, if it was a Rebel, oh my gosh, it'd be so good. But yeah, against Control, this is the card that I will leave in. Other than that, it's coming out like against any other matchup. So
Okay.
that is the main. Yeah, I don't think there's anything I'd really change at the moment. It's felt great. I've run this list for a couple weeks, towards the end of the set. And that's where I leave it. So going into the side deck quickly, we've talked about, most of these, and some of them are represented in the deck. So the Spec Force Soldier, again, comes in against Sentinel stuff. Wolf, he outperforms. Like, he takes the bar and he raises it. Like, Wolf was crazy so many times. Like, Wolf might go to 3 in the side deck. Every time I played Wolf against, like, a Restore deck or against Control, against Aiden, Krennic, or Sharut, or Luke, like Luke Heroism with Yoda and stuff like that. Like, he's crazy. Like, I've won games because I take the initiative and then I play Wolf, and then they just can't heal that turn. Yeah, like, again, it's one of those cards where he's a 2-cost event that says you can't heal this turn, and if I get to attack with him after that, that's just a bonus. Like, yeah, Wolf. Yeah. Out of anything in the side deck, Wolf is the outperformer. He could go to 3. It felt great. Like, I would totally put 3 in the main against Restore stuff. So when I'm siding in Wolf and Fang Fighter, especially when it's against, like, again, a Control, I'm usually taking out like a Surprise Strike and a Sneak Attack. Even the ratios of the 4 cause, but also because against Control specifically, you just want to play more units. You don't want to play, events, because then they can get rid of that one unit you're waiting to Surprise Strike, and then you just have a card that you can't play. So, like, playing more units against Control is much better. And so Wolf is a unit. Again, he's an event that does stuff. So yeah, I usually, when I side in a card that's non-hero, I take out a non-hero card to keep the ratio the same. Lothal Insurgent, kind of talked about that, but again, that's for the aggro mirrors to have a 3/2. Bamboozle is a card that a lot of people started to get in on. It's only really there for Child's In again. I had 2 in the side deck for a little bit when everyone was playing the Blue Vader deck. Because it gets rid of all the upgrades, so you can make Child's In a 2/2, which any of my units can trade with. I brought it down to 1 because honestly, like, I have Leia's in the main. If I'm just using it to exhaust something, I don't need more than another one. It's actually good in the mirror to remove Wing Leader buffs and then exhaust something, but I don't think you need more than one. Again, in the mirror, you just need that one turn where you, like, mitigate some damage and then you come out on top of the damage. Spark the Rebellion's great against Control. That always comes in against that, and you can spark their Vigilance turn or their Over Barrage turn, like, then you're Gucci. Like, you're like, all right, yeah, I can play the game now. And you don't get to do anything. So the other thing that happens too sometimes against Controls, like, they're holding the takedown on the Sabine flip turn.
Oh yeah.
You can, like, attack with your guys, and then they'll say pass. They attack with the guy, they say pass. Attack with the guy, they say pass.
It's like so telegraphed.
It's so obvious. And then you just go Spark the Rebellion, get rid of the takedown, and then you can play Sabine and, like, Surprise Striker or something. So super good. I'm down to 1 Fang Fighter in the side deck. Traitorous hasn't been that bad. Like, on the 5 resource turn, on turn 4, if they're wasting all 5 of their resources to play Traitorous, like, okay, then I get to attack with all my units. Like, you're not playing anything else that turn. And on turn 4, on the 5 resource turn, we should be winning possibly that turn, if not the next turn. And so, yeah, I haven't really cared much about Traitorous. Entrenched is the other one that it really kind of be in there for. I don't think it's something, again, that I'm super worried about. Not a lot of people are on the Blue Vader deck anymore either, so it feels fine at 1. Like, if I haven't seen the Traitorous, I'll leave it out game 2.
Okay.
And see the Traitorous, I'll bring it in for game 3. So it has to be pretty like obvious that I need it. And then Chewie and Black One we talked about, but Chewie goes in for the other Black One against aggro mirrors, and then vice versa. The Black One comes in Chewie for control. So,
brothers.
Yeah, they just change out each other. Like, all right, it's your turn. Take out.
Yeah.
We're facing this deck. So yeah, the sideboard felt great. Again, it was one set, super limited on cards. Some of them were just kind of like gasping for straws, I felt, but they all felt good. Again, Wolf is the one that I felt like, wow, I've always kind of wanted to just have 3 of them in the side deck. I'd probably take out the other Lothal Insurgent. We have a lot against the control or the aggro mirror like built into the deck already,
yeah.
So I think we need the other Lothal. I would maybe take that out and put in another Wolf. And Wolf has Saboteur.
Oh my gosh. By the way.
Yeah, by the way.
He's even better.
Yeah, he's even better. He has Saboteur and he stops healing. He's great. Another red rare. At least he's not red hero. That'd be even crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and Roa, yeah. Yeah, but that's the deck. I don't think in any tournament whether I entered with it, whether it be a local or a store showdown, I ever had a losing record. I was almost always 3-1 for locals. A bunch of them I went 4-0. A couple showdowns, winning records. Yeah, good deck, and I love it. And that's probably the first thing I'll be working on for set 2.
So if this video has helped you at all, or any of our other videos in the past, you can watch those. And if that has also helped you, please subscribe, comment, and like. This is the first video we're doing with somebody else. We got Roger Mack here again. The channel also has an email list in the description, and you get your free thing with that. So let's get into the cards that we're thinking about adding to the deck for set 2. Got it.
One, there's actually a lot, but the 2 that are like, they're going in the deck. One is Daring Raid, which is the 1-drop burn spell. So it's 1-drop,
okay,
red, and it's deal 2 damage to a unit or base. That's nuts. Like, we get another burn spell, which is great. That means on the 4 resource turn, we can play 4 cause and end that. We probably could take out a combination of Black One, Chewie, Gunship, Lothal, and like maybe even lowering the Spec Force count. Who knows? Actually, I'd probably take out the Sabine unit before I take out Spec Forces.
Yeah.
Not a great big fan of that card, but yeah, Daring Raid, just having another burn spell I think will be great. And then second is the Poe Dameron legendary red.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that card is
like an amazing legendary card.
Like, yeah, and the other Sabine decks have no legendaries. The green ECL Sabine does not have a legendary that it runs, and the red one runs aggression, but that's it, which isn't a unit. It does do some great stuff. We are going to have 2 legendary statted units, and Cunning Sabine is crazy, and Poe is super overstatted. And the fact is, so he's 5 for a 6/6. And then he has his on attack ability. But what that means is we can sneak attack Poe on the 4 resource turn and deal 8 damage to their base with 1 attack. It feels great. Oh my gosh. And then, so I think I talked about this earlier, but if you surprise strike Poe, so his 6 attack, and then you add the 3 from surprise strike, which is 9, and then if you discard 1 for his on attack ability, one of the 3 options is to deal 2 damage to base. So you can do 11 damage to base.
What?
1 attack, which is 1/3 of a 30 HP base. If you surprise strike Poe Dameron, you can deal 11 damage to someone's base. I don't know what to talk about. It's like that's gonna be crazy. Yeah, those are the two that I'm most excited for sure.
That's just gonna come out of nowhere. I wouldn't even expect to be in range at that point.
Oh, for sure.
Just gone. Just like that.
You're just dead. Like the fact
I mean, I guess you could have a sentinel in place, but
it's like way overstated from our leader, and I can sneak attack him on the same turn. Like, first of all, if you just play him raw, he's 5 for a 6/6. Okay, can't get hit by takedown, right? So that's one. And then his on attack. The only on attack ability that I think we're going to care about is pitching 1 to deal 2 damage to base. Because you can discard up to 3, and then you can either rip a card from their hand, I think they choose, draw a card, and then deal 2 damage to base. I think those are the 3. But the deal 2 damage to base is the only thing we're going to care about. Most of it. There is more, but those are the 2 that I'm the most excited for. Those are like going in the deck. Like day 1, 3 of them. Play this deck, have a great time. Right. Yeah, this is it. This is the conclusion of 3 months of games and testing, and
this is how you play the best deck, from playing Sabine Ren, Chopper base, all of the damage to base, playing the best cards, using a few cards to stop things that would stop you from going to base.
Do you go to base?
Let us know if you have any questions, and try this deck before anyone else tells you otherwise. And remember who broke it down to you. Team Garage. See you next week.
Peace.